Good evening, race fans. Welcome back to TRTN and welcome back to the NLRL Sunday League Cons Season 2, Round 4 here, live exclusively on TRTN. I, of course, am Regan Clark, and you join us from Midrand, South Africa, in the municipality of the city of Johannesburg, here at the mighty Kyalami Grand Prix circuit. Founded in 1961, 16 turns and 2.8 miles of FIA Grade 2, soon to be FIA Grade 1, as the former home of the South African Grand Prix and potential future home of the South African Grand Prix. In the modern day, Kyalami hosts a singular motorsporting event, being the Kyalami 9 Hours, which it has ran intermittently since 1958. It's the second largest motorsporting event in continental Africa, besides that of the WRC's Safari Rally Kenya. It is a mighty circuit indeed, and we start off today's practice session watching on board with James Mason and Charlie Smith, our first two drivers onto the field here, as they make their way around turn 8 and 9 there, the S's, as we bring ourselves into Sector 2. We'll get a full rundown of the circuit then in the upcoming lap. On board though with James Mason, as he now makes his way into the top 10. He's joint 9th in the championship at the moment with Ben Cheeseman. We stay on board then with the BMW as we go down into turn 12 here at the mineshaft corner. Getting a look at the championship standings coming into round 4. Jason Bush leads with 116 points. 10 points behind him is Diman Ivanov in the Aston Martin with 106 points. Last season's champion Christian Lebay makes his way to the podium by a single point off from second with 105 points. That's 3 points ahead of Francois Debont with 102. Great slide catch there by James Mason. In 5th in the championship is Axel Cassier with 95 points. Ian Skeen, last weekend's race winner, 92 points into the championship, makes 6th position ahead of Kevin Quain with 89 points. Wesley Kuiper in 8th position with 88 points, and joint 9th, as we mentioned, James Mason and Ben Cheeseman. So, starting off our run here through Kyalami, we're already out of turn 1 at the kink and down into Crowthorne's corner at turn 2. Then immediately into turns 3 and 4, our first S's section. This is the Juxgay sweep, named after the Juxgay River that is present in the province of Midrand. Out through turn 5 then, Barbecue Corner brings us down the first of our major straights here in towards Sunset Corner at turn 6. This long sweeping right-hander here, deceptively sharp as it brings us on the run into turn 7 at Clubhouse. It's a very quick snap across the track from left to right before we hit the apex at turn 7. Now down to the S's where we caught on there with Mason and Smith. Our first 2 times then for free practice. We'll get on to qualifying predictions in a moment's time, as we see them head out of turn 9, up towards Lukop then at turn 10. One of our major overtaking spots, very easy to lay a dive bomb in at this section here. Turn 10 becomes turn 11 as it's a parabolic corner. And out through turn 11 we go at the end of Lukop. Down towards Mineshaft then as we enter sector 3. Turn 12, like turn 6, deceptively sharp, though this can be taken with much more gusto than turn 6. Near flat out for most of these drivers as we head into another major overtaking spot. Turn 13 at the Crocodiles. This whole complex taking us from turn 13 to 14, then into one of the most deceptive corners on track, turn 15 at Cheetah. You go on the inside of that corner, and it is a very, very quick trip into the gravel. Then out through turn 16 at Ingwe, our final corner, then down towards the line the first time of today, then coming from James Mason. As we cross the line of 1:43.449. Charlie Smith crossing the line behind them, 1:44.782. Behind them, Christian Lebay sets the fastest time so far, 1:42.747. So you see here, this is Scott Milbank, just gone across the gravel. Must have been the first of our victims today of Cheetah Corner at turn 15. You can see in front of them there, Tyler Vermaak on his home race here in South Africa, as Milbank takes a quick knock there against the wall. There's Charlie Smith in the number 23 Ferrari, making his way out of turn 5 then. Let's have a look around the track here as we see Jason Bush, the championship leader so far. Ahead of him there, Tyler Vermaak. There'll be a lot of pressure on Vermaak coming into this race. It's been spotty results over the course of the last 2 weekends, and now he's at his home race here in the Sunday League. He'll be looking for very, very high expectations. So we see here Christian Lebay holding on to the fastest time of the session thus far. Now we must concede Wesley Kuiper is also in the session, and has proven to be sort of master of the sandbags over the course of this short stint of the season. Of course, taking a look at our calendar here, we're only 4 rounds in to the 10-round calendar. Next round will be at the halfway mark at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Then after that, Paul Ricard in France, Imola in what is technically considered to be the San Marino Grand Prix, but it is in Italy, in Emilia-Romagna. Silverstone, of course, in the Northamptonshire, Buckinghamshire border in England. Watkins Glen in Schuyler County, New York State. And Monza in Italy to round out the rest of the championship. see there, Mason stranded across the road, very nearly catching LeBay. Did take quite a hefty chunk of grass with him there to avoid the BMW that was stranded halfway across the track. This was just as we cut away from the look of the calendar. So we stayed on with LeBay, now through Cheetah Corner. And another car is laid victim there. This time being James Mason. That makes 2 BMWs thus far. The first one being Scott Milbank in the number 44. And as we get towards the end of free practice, 3.5 minutes left to go, we'll try and check in here with Tyler Vermack as he starts another lap, sets the second fastest time in his last run around there. A 1:42.315. We'll stay on board with Vermack as we begin to recount the news for today. It's a very, very sudden shift in oversteer there for Vermack. Maybe we'll have to cut away to another driver here, another Mustang. This is Kevin Quain, 5th fastest, 1:43.290 by the Canadian. So then, let's have a stab here at the news for today. And our first bit of news comes from the British Touring Car Championship. Now, earlier in the week, we discussed the rumour that Nicholas Hamilton could return to the British Touring Car Championship as early as this year. We've been proven correct as he makes his move to Unlimited Racing Cupra for 2025 in the news that was revealed only a few days ago. This marks the first time that one of our rumours has been 100% correct here on TRTN. We've been ahead of the bell curve on some of the media in reporting that, and we're quite proud of that fact. And elsewhere in the world of motorsports, in MotoGP, going into the US Grand Prix, the America's Grand Prix as it's referred to on the calendar, this very evening, with warm-up already out of the way. Marc Marquez maintains his perfect record in 2025 after winning yesterday's sprint race at the America's Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, at the Circuit of the Americas, where we'll be with the Sunday League next Sunday. This is his second season, I believe, with Ducati, working with the factory team. Marc Marquez has already wowed expectations above and beyond going into this season. Now, out of Formula 1, we've got a triple set of news today. The first of which, of course, I'm sure you've all seen. Yuki Tsunoda replaces Liam Lawson at Red Bull Racing, heading into the Japanese Grand Prix. It was a decisive factor made after the most recent Chinese Grand Prix that Lawson would be leaving Red Bull Racing, marking one of the shortest tenures in Red Bull Racing history, rivaling that of Pierre Gasly, who only managed to make half a season before his replacement. And elsewhere in the world of Formula 1 news, Audi is set to construct a UK facility ahead of their official entry next year. They're set to buy up land in the Motorsports Valley in and around the counties of Oxfordshire, Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire to cement their place as part of the F1 zeitgeist. They'll be near teams like Red Bull Racing, Mercedes and Williams coming into 2026. As we cut away then from Kevin Quain as he makes his way back to the pits, we'll go on board with another Ford Mustang here, Axel Cassier. And rounding out the last of our Formula 1 news is the very sudden remark by the FIA that they are considering a return to the V10 engine beyond 2026. Now, this is as F1 edges ever closer to 100% renewable carbon neutral fuel. The moment they can achieve this, the FIA says that the V10 would be a considered option. Red Bull and Ferrari have both been proponents to this idea, the only current opposition coming from newcomers Audi, set to become the newest engine manufacturer next to Cadillac in the coming years. That rounds the end of our Formula 1 and motorsporting news for today. So we stay here with Axel Cassier at the end of free practice. 30 seconds left to go. Cassier currently 7th. Having a look at our timing charts, we can see that Wesley Kuiper has waited almost until the very last moment to wow our expectations. A 1:41.357 by the Dutchman puts him fastest, ahead of Tyler Vermack at his home race by nearly a whole second. Dima Ivanov in 3rd, with Christian Lebay 4th, Kevin Quain 5th, James Mason 6th, Axel Cassier 7th, Charlie Smith in 8th, Scott Milbank was in 9th but pushed down to 10th there with the sudden introduction of Jason Bush, who takes the fastest time at the end of practice. Is this a precedent then for the upcoming qualifying session? Well, we'll certainly get a look here as we're about to head into quali. And it is looking to be a very interesting session ahead of us here. It was mixed conditions coming into this session. There could still be the chance there for rain coming into this race, so I'm told, as we've seen rain coming into this practice session in particular. We can see as well John Prine rounding out our times with De Bont, Proger, Jenkins, Bahena, Stoyanov and Bond yet to have set times, but we'll be looking to set times in the upcoming quali session. Wesley Kuiper, though, is still out on track, making his way down through turn 12 and down towards the Crocodiles at 13 and 14, looking to one-up the time set by the American Jason Bush in the number 33 Lexus. And before we recount the qualifying predictions, it's important to note the balance of performance for today. As it says there, Bathurst. We'll just remove that there. It was a bit of a hurried production coming into today. The data was taken at around 3:40 today. That being the 30th of March 2025, shows Aston Martin on both ends of the spectrum as Wesley Kuiper now makes the fastest time by 600ths of a second at the end of practice. Aston Martin losing and gaining the most, with the V12 Vantage losing 40 kilos, the V8 Vantage gaining 15. The Lexus RCF losing 34 kilos, with Porsche losing 19 on its 992. The Honda NSX losing 13 kilos coming into this round. The only neutral then being Ferrari, not gaining or losing any amount of ballast weight. 3 kilos added then to the Mercedes, 11 to the McLaren, 14 to both the BMW and the Ford, and 15 to Aston Martin's V8 Vantage. So now as we head into qualifying, this is the meat and potatoes of this round now in Kyalami. We're 4 rounds into the championship and things are still razor thin in our control of the championship lead. There will be insurmountable pressure on the shoulders of Jason Bush, with a crowd mounting behind him and now all around him as he makes his way out of the pit lane. We'll go on board then with the 2 leading cars coming into qualifying then. Wesley Kuiper and Francois Dubont will go on board with the leading Mustang then, the number 4, as they're the first car out onto the field today. Dubont will have a lot of expectations to fill coming into this round. He's yet to have set a time in the predictions leading up to this session, but is nonetheless inside the top 10 in the championship standings, as we saw before. They're inside the top 5. As for the qualifying predictions for today, coming into this round of the championship, it's Jason Bush predicted at pole position, a 141.380 by the Lexus, and with Wesley Kuiper 2 tenths off him, a 141.515 by the McLaren. Hayden Prodger predicted at third with the Ferrari, a 141.785. Christian Lebay in fourth. Diman Ivanov rounding out the top 5. Behind him, fellow Aston Martin driver Marian Stoyanov in 6th position, making an Aston Martin 4, 5 and 6 in quali predictions. Charlie Smith in 7th there with a 143.955. Kevin Quain in 8th. Axel Cassier in 9th. John Prine rounding out that top 10 as we come into this qualifying session. And looking very sharp indeed at the moment is Dubont and Kuiper. You can see Kuiper giving a little bit of swerves there before turn 12 at Mineshaft, trying his hardest there to get some heat into those tyres. I'll be staying on board with Dubont as of so far leading the charge down towards the first of our flying laps today. Running wide there out of Cheetah Curve, easier than going on the inside where there will be considerable knocks over the right hand side of the car. I do anticipate the first of our major incidents in this race to more likely rear their ugly heads through turn 15. But now as we start our qualifying session, straight off the bat through turn 1 goes Francois Dubont, immediately down towards turn 2 at Crowthorns. It's a bit of an odd corner to take. The line is very, very strange as you've got to position yourself more than perfectly on the run up through the S's at the Juxgay sweep, then into Barbecue. So a very tough section to get the perfect line out of, especially when manoeuvring a car with 14 kilos added on its curb weight. So for Dubont, there is a challenge to be had here, and he's 5.5 seconds up the road from Wesley Kuiper. He's dropped back a bit of time there to give himself the breathing room coming into his first flying lap. Right now, though, Dubont's looking very confident in the number 4. Of course, with many pundits claiming that Kuiper, despite being predicted at second, could absolutely deliver on times capable of first. We'll see whether or not their predictions coming into today are apt at that. So, coming out of turn 9 up towards turn 10 and turn 11 at Le Cop is Francois Dubont in the number 4. Down towards turn 12 we go then. We're on board then with the Ford Mustang. Pardon me. Down through the Crocodiles then. Turn 13 and 14 and in towards Cheetah Corner. You can see the degree of... what would be the best assertion for that? What would be the degree... this degree of aberrance around wanting to take the inside corner. And as Dubont crosses the line, that's our... what would have been our provisional first time of the day, but actually goes to James Mason at 142.873. Kuiper across the line next. Also does not set a time, so a peculiar state of affairs to kick off the start of qualifying. The 222 then crosses the line. Hayden Prodger, Jason Bush on his trail there, sets the fastest time. 141.5. Hayden Prodger 1.1 seconds off the beat there, but makes second ahead of James Mason. John Prine sets their time. LeBay in front of him now into third. With Cassier across the line next, doesn't set a time in the Mustang, so this is going to be thick and fast now on how quickly these times come in. The number 5 is next across the line. Then the number 1, Diman Ivanov, crosses the line with the second fastest time. You can see in the background as well. I believe that is... I want to make... Yes, there it is. The number 44. That's Scott Milbank. 7th fastest. BMW dealing with a 14-kilo ballast addition coming into this round. He's doing well against such adversity in the number 44. Up to 7th then. Number 66 next towards the line. Marian Stoyanov with Aston Martin. 15 kilos to play against here. The 66 across the line. 8th fastest, just behind Milbank, but ahead of Prine. Looking to see where our next times are coming from. The 4:13 would be the next one to pay attention to. 4:13, of course, being James Mason. One of the most remarkable stories from Season 1 was that James Mason played through what was nearly half a season with severe injuries to his hand. And whatever that did, now speaking with some of his current and former teammates at K1, it seemed to have drastically changed the way that he controlled that car after his injuries. In fact, one went so far as to say it made him faster after all things said and done. This injury spurred him on somehow, and in the modern day, it makes James Mason a really capable top 10 competitor. Wesley Kuiper crosses the line with a 1:41.315, challenges Busch for pole position, and gets him by nearly 0.2 of a second. And that is quickly snatched back in favour of the American, who doubles down, putting it nearly 0.3 of a second between himself and Kuiper. So this is an interesting shootout we're starting to see. We're going to check in with number 1, Diman Ivanov, currently 3rd. LeBay and Quain in front of him there. Ivanov across the line, doesn't find an improvement on this lap. Prine behind him as well. Another Aston Martin in 11th. Does find an improvement, but not for position. The 44 crosses the line then. Scott Milbank remains in 9th position. So a lot of the drivers at the moment clustered together on the same areas of the track. We get a lot of these bulk times coming in at the moment. We're watching here now with James Mason. Goes very wide through Luerkop, turn 10, but then sort of loops that background to greater momentum on the run out of turn 11. He's going to have to conserve as much momentum as can be heading down into this corner. A very high commitment here on the inside at turn 12. He's going to have to go extra late on the brakes here to try and make up for some of the time lost into Sector 2 as he enters Sector 3. Out of turn 13, through turn 14, now to turn 15 at Cheetah. No one getting too ambitious with the inside curve, save for our front row there. You can see where the great divide in times is coming from. Looking at those qualifying predictions, it was also quite a large set of gaps we were seeing inside that top 10. So whether it was a case where a lot of drivers just weren't pushing during that time. Mason now up to 6th. DeBont behind him at the moment. Goes up to 3rd in the Ford. We can see behind him, Wesley Kuiper crosses the line, puts it to within a 1/10 of a second. Proger is next across the line in the 222. Currently 5th. Crosses the line. Finds an improvement, but not for position. Jason Busch, can he extend the gap into the 40s here as he crosses the line? Sadly, not this time around. We have about 12.5 minutes left to go in qualifying. And what a start it has already turned out to be. You've got 3 drivers there nearly within half a second of one another. Looking further out, you've got nearly 6 drivers within 1.5 seconds from first down to 6th. Now, this is among the larger gaps we've seen, where we've seen up towards 9, nearly 10 drivers inside a second of one another. Kyalami is one of those divisive tracks, like Bathurst almost, where drivers either really love it or hate it. It is a fantastic endurance venue. Very rarely do we get to see it used as a sprint race venue. So for a lot of these drivers, they're operating on means that they're not super accustomed to. We now see they're going up to the top 6. Tyler Vermack in the number 5. Catch on board just a moment from now with the 66. Marian Stoyanov just outside the top 10 with Aston Martin. Crosses the line, doesn't find his way in to the top 10 on this lap. Next is the number 23, Charlie Smith. Still struggling to find a time then here in South Africa, but now towards Ingwe Curve at turn 16. May have his first opportunity to put a time on the charts. Wide there out of turn 16 to the right-hand side of the track. Gets down towards the line, and sadly... Oh, wait, no, there we go. It was a late entry there on the time. Before it would have been 13th there. He's actually into the top 10 now. Smith was predicted at around 7th coming into this race. So there are high expectations for the number 23 in the Ferrari to deliver on a solid top 10 finish here. Now, the odds are stacked quite heavily in his favour coming into this round. This seems to be a lot more comfortable performance out of Charlie Smith. coming into round 4 of the championship, especially compared to the last 2 weeks where it has been a lot of traffic mayhem. One of the more iconic moments to have come out of last race is sadly one that we couldn't capture, but those of you staying within inside the community would have seen the clips by Charlie Smith of him effectively parting the crowds of crashing cars down through Skyline Hill. He compared himself to Moses in the sort of biblical iconography, the story of Moses parting the Red Seas. So we now see Christian LeBay goes up to 7th ahead of James Mason. Mason currently out on track. We're to go on board though with the next car down towards the line. It's the number 5 of Tyler Vermaak at his home race here in South Africa. Right now, looking at a very enthusiastic start to his qualifying session. Sadly doesn't find enough time to put himself ahead of Hayden Prodger, but finds an improvement nonetheless. Francois de Bont down towards the line, nearly within half a second of our front two. Doesn't find an improvement on this lap, but it's looking very strong for the number 4 to put himself in a very solid position, especially with such a long open straight down towards turn 1 and 2, to challenge Jason Bush and Wesley Kuiper on race start. It's looking to be a very exciting grid by the looks of things at the moment. Now, bear in mind, we have about 9, just under 10 minutes left to go in this session, so things could obviously turn at the sort of flip of a hat here in South Africa. So do look forward to seeing how things pan out with the final 10 minutes of qualifying left to go. James Mason down towards the line from 8th position, finds his way up to 6th then, ahead of Vermaak and LeBay. So very strong time there by the 4:13. Next is the number 63, Axel Cassier, down towards the line to set his first time from 16th position. The Belgian crosses the line 12th fastest, 2.2 seconds off of pole position. Heading in for the 1:43s at this session at the moment. The number 18 of Julio Bahena sets his first time, then the American down towards the line from 16th position. And does he find himself ahead of Cassier? No, he doesn't. 15th there, 5.5 seconds off of pole position. Down across the line goes the 111 of Wesley Kuiper, as he crosses the line there on what I believe was an invalidated lap. Sadly, doesn't set an extra position up. Scott Milbank is next towards the line, and in a long convoy of cars on his tail there, John Prine, and then further down the line, Kevin Quain, and the number 5 of Tyler Vermaak down the order, also joined by Diman Ivanov. Going across the line then, we'll check in with the number 5 of Vermaak down across the line, still 7th. And now within 100th of a second of catching James Mason's time. Francois de Bont down towards the line there. So we can see Kyle Jenkins in the background about to set their first time from 16th position. The 113 crosses the line next. And as we see on the charts, takes a moment to update. Was it a valid lap then for Jenkins? It doesn't appear so, sadly. The 119 crosses the line. Christian LeBay still 8th fastest on this leg of qualifying. We'll try and get on board with Wesley Kuiper. And we want to try and get a look at the Dutchman's performance. Now, in terms of pole positions, 99.9% of the time, Wesley Kuiper does gun for and then eventually get pole position in Sunday League races. He was quite the proprietor of them back in Season 1. Heading into Season 2, he's still looking reared up and ready for results. Looking at our previous wins from this season gone, it was Wesley Kuiper that's picked up 1/3 of them. Now he's one of 3 drivers at the moment, 3 different names in a row. Could we be seeing our 4th with the current spur-in performance by Jason Bush? We will wait and see. Round turn 16 goes Wesley Kuiper to start another flying lap. Won't be seeing an improvement at the end of this one coming. Looking at our previous wins then this season, Melvin Milliston, of course, won back in Spa to kick off Season 2. Wesley Kuiper then won in Donington Park at round 2 of the championship. And last weekend gone, we saw a fantastic breakthrough of the lines there to give Ian Skeen his first win in Sunday League history. So coming into this round, we are still high on the expectations to see a brand new race winner, with Jason Bush looking to be the most likely amongst the crowd at the moment. Not if Wesley Kuiper has anything to say about it. And believe me, he does. With times that he's been setting at the moment, he's looking ever closer at a move into pole position. Looking at the gap at the moment, it still sits at dead on 1/10 of a second. So with Jason Bush somewhere up the track ahead of Wesley Kuiper, he's about 3 corners up as he makes his way down towards Leurkop. Wesley just making his way out of turn 7. What can the American do to fend off the Flying Dutchman? That is the real question now. Jason Bush has been on lightning performance all through this season so far. Hasn't finished any lower than a podium if memory serves correctly, and doesn't intend to break that record coming into round 4. In fact, he's gunning higher and looking for his first win of the season. And with the odds stacked in favour of Lexus at the moment, with that 36 kilos lost coming into this round, it is certainly looking very, very hopeful for Bush to claim his first win in Sunday League here in South Africa. Down towards turn 16 goes Jason Bush in what has now become the qualifying shootout to be for that front row. What is the message Bush has to send as he crosses the line? Is it an improvement from a 41? Sadly, no it isn't. So now the ball's in the court of Wesley Kuiper down through turn 16. Will it be an improvement by the Dutchman out through Ingwe Curve? Down towards the start-finish line. Will he be moving up into pole position? Down across the line he goes. Not this time around. It is a constant push and pull affair now. Across the line behind him goes, that was the 18. Julio Bahena stays in 16th at the moment. The number 44 of Scott Milbank down towards the line next with BMW. Kevin Quain and Diman Ivanov also to the line from 11th. Quain doesn't find a move for position, but Ivanov does, and up into 3rd goes the Aston Martin. So it's looking very exciting on that second row at the moment. This push and pull between Diman Ivanov and Francois de Bont, the battle of the front engine cars at the moment. The heavyweights of Aston Martin and Ford, and quite literally so, as they've got 2 of the highest ballasts coming into this round here in Kyalami. It is looking very, very exciting across that top 4. And now looking further down into our top 6 for that 3rd row. Hayden Prodger just crosses the line now. Does find an improvement, but not enough to catch Francois de Bont for 4th position. Though bear in mind, with about 4.5 minutes left to go in qualifying, he's still got plenty of time to make that mark before the end of this session. And he's currently going to be lining up alongside, by the looks of it, James Mason, the season hopeful in the 4:13. And it's looking to be a very exciting front 3 rows. Then looking further down the order, that makes 4 with Tyler Vermack and Axel Cassier, 2 of our rising stars with Ford, are looking to make a serious message here coming into round 4 of the championship. It's looking very, very strong indeed. And Kuiper has now lost out to 3/10 of a gap there. Jason Bush setting a remarkable time of a 1 minute 40.837. Serious precedent now being sent across the paddock by Jason Bush, that he's been waiting, lying in dormancy for the last 3 rounds. He's been peaking in and around those podium positions, but now you're in his territory, and only God can help you now. Kuiper manages to try and split that down to 0.135, I should say, seconds there at the end of his last run. So that gap coming ever, ever closer to one another, infinitesimal in nature, so it may seem. Out through turn 5 he goes. Is it a case where Kuiper's going to have to make this count, put pen to paper come race time? Or is it really going to be a case of where some tracks definitely are in that nature? You can make the claim that qualifying makes all the difference on certain tracks. Kyalami is one of those precarious spots where you can definitely see huge shifts in the dynamic. I mean, we thought we had that kind of run and done in Bathurst, and we see there Wesley Kuiper getting a sudden bottom out on his way through turn 12 and in at the wall there to bring an end to his current run. And that's right around 3 minutes left to go in quali. So we check in there with Wesley Kuiper as he makes his way down into... That's actually, as a matter of fact, that's not turn 12 at all. That is turn 9 of the S's. Catches a little bit of curb, bottoms out. And that's enough to send him careening off track. He's in at the pits alongside Jason Bush. You see Axel Cassier making his way out on track. We'll check in with the next driver down towards the line. Furthest up the field at the moment is Julio Bahena making his way out of turn 13 as we speak. The number 18 with Ford had quite a interesting last couple of rounds, especially at Donington and Bathurst. We see the rain, though, starting to hit the track, so maybe that has now solidified the status quo inside our top 5 here at the end of qualifying as we move into what looks to be changeable and dangerous conditions on track, with the rain starting to slam the grade 2 here as Bahena crosses the line ahead of Stoyanov. Behind him there, I believe that is the number... trying to check here, the number 44. That's Scott Milbank that's just crossed the line to make his way into the top 10. The 413 next to cross the line, James Mason. Is he going to be able to challenge Hayden Prodger, who has now made his way up into the top 5? You can see behind him as well is Robertson, making his way into the session. A late entry into quali, but is already inside the top 15 to make this an 18-car grid. 9 either side of it going on to our formation lap in a few minutes' time. Robertson already in 14th position. Triple 2 next towards the line now. Hayden Prodger has had a very ambitious qualifying session thus far. Is it better late than never? And sadly, not an improvement on this lap, but I highly doubt one's coming on the horizon now, with the weather getting ever worse here in Kyalami towards the end of quali. He'll have to sit content with a top 5 start. A great qualifying by any means. One that he knew he could have got more out of had it not been for the sudden introduction of inclement weather. Nonetheless, though, this has been an interesting qualifying to say the least. Wesley Kuiper appears to have finally met his match in the form of Jason Bush. It's going to make for an interesting front row, and I think that precedent's being carried all the way down to our 5th row at the end of our top 10 is every side of it. You've got interesting conflict on the horizon. D-Man Ivanov's going to go head-to-head with Francois de Bont on our 2nd row. Hayden Prodger's going to go head-to-head with James Mason for Mac against Cassier, who's still out on track at the moment. And last season's champion LeBay's inside the top 10, but alongside Scott Milbank for a stern defence from Aston Martin. So right now, at the closing moments of qualifying, none of our drivers now look to be making their way back out on track. With Axel Cassier throwing in the towel here. With minutes left to go, that becomes seconds now. Thought we had more time left in qualifying. No, the needle is about to drop. And that brings about a premature ending to qualifying as rain starts to hit the track. Now, is this a message to be sent into the race here that we could be dealing with wet weather on the horizon? Getting a look from race control. That looks to be possibly the case. So we'll get a full look at our grid coming in around for the championship. An interesting qualifying then. And we actually see at the moment it will start off in dry conditions, though currently looks to stay in and around cloudy conditions for at least 30 minutes coming into this race. So there is that to take into mind. But an interesting end of qualifying. We'll see whether or not we get something like that towards the end of this race. Now, with an open-ended strategy, there is little these drivers have to risk in terms of tyre choice. And with no imminent warning of rain on the horizon, that is just something that was going to sit in the back of the mind of these drivers then coming into this round. That at any moment, with say even 10 minutes left to go, rain could batter the track and bring a total twist in fate for the end of this race. But coming in around for the championship, here is our starting grid. Jason Bush starts on pole position with Lexus for the first time, and alongside Wesley Kuiper, our budding champion-to-be. Currently 8th in the championship, but has already taken a race win this season after a mixed start in Spa, finding victory in Donington. He's hunting down another race win here in round 4. D-Man Ivanov makes 3rd place and ahead of Francois de Bont to make an exciting 2nd row. Further down the line is Hayden Prodger starting in the top 5 and ahead of James Mason. Tyler Vermack on his home race starts 7th position ahead of Axel Cassier. And Christian LeBay starts in 9th alongside Scott Milbank to round out our top 10. Charlie Smith starts in 11th position alongside Kevin Quain in 12th. Kyle Jenkins in 13th with James Robertson in 14th position. John Prine in 15th and Julio Bahena in 16th. And then rounding out our grid is Marian Stoyanov in 17th. Dave Bond, after taking a qualifying ban, in 18th position. So this is going to be an interesting round. And at the moment, we don't have any real confirmation as of the time of recording, exactly what the going rate is for this sort of the weather coming into this race. It's going to be a bit of a mixed bag, absolutely. And I'm sure the anxiety now of the rain suddenly shifting, and believe me, in the time that we've covered Kyalami, it is absolutely possible for the weather to shift rather suddenly. And it's going to weigh very heavy, because we can only see about 30 minutes ahead on the weather radar at the moment. And that's the same story for the drivers. We've got just about as much perception of what could happen in this race as all 18 drivers taking to the track here in round 4. As we get the 30-second warning, then the engines will fire up. We'll go on board with Jason Bush, our pole sitter, to take us away on the formation lap here for round 4 of the championship. For Bush, this could not have come at a better time than Lexus, with such great benefit in the balance of performance patch coming into Kyalami, have definitely got their best possible opportunity to fight McLaren for position. Bear in mind, the McLaren, despite having that weight ballast on it, most of the people experienced with the 720S can tell you that that ballast, even though it is up in the double figures, rarely does too much to affect the McLaren's performance. It is a car that actually works surprisingly well with ballast. So this sudden, serious reduction in weight is definitely going to put these two at level pegging down into turn 2. I dare to think what could happen with 18 drivers making their way down towards Crowthorne for the first time. as we go away on our first of our formation laps. You see the very peculiar shape of this first sector of the track. Now, this carries all the way from turn 2 up to turn 5. It goes wide, then narrow, then wide, then narrow again, then back to wide as it exits turn 5. It is a very bizarre section to try and go side by side. Not impossible. We've seen it in VSR Phoenix. It is not impossible to go side by side in this section at Kyalami, but it is not without its great difficulty to do so. So now out through turn 5, down towards turn 6 at sunset. This is usually the deciding factor on most side-by-side battles. Now, if drivers can keep their nerve up through turn 5, they'll more than likely break it here for turn 6. Going side-by-side is difficult by any stretch of the imagination. I think we've only seen a handful of cases where drivers have really been able to lick the stamp and send it some proper brass neck activity. Now out through turn 7, clubhouse curve, into another technical section of the track. Now, this is one of the great parts about Kyalami, is its variety. I mean, it's a track that can throw plenty of adversity at the drivers over the course of this race, but they always find a great sort of groove through this track. It's one of the many great parts of a track like Kyalami. It's why it's favoured so highly in the endurance community, because there's just enough variance there to make things interesting per lap. And it's just large enough in scale and in width to where it can facilitate great side-by-side racing even with the adage of traffic. Now, we've only an hour on the clock today for this race, so we'll have nowhere near that amount of time to consider. Though traffic may become an element should we see any massive offs in the starting laps of this race. Now, we've seen that before where we had traffic in Bathurst and in Donington, for that matter, over the course of the last 2 weeks, so anything can happen. And right now, we're still on board with Jason Bush as we head into Sector 3. So Wesley Kuiper's right alongside, and we'll be to his outside as we head to Turn 2. Technically, we'll be to the inside at Turn 1. And it is a drag race between the Lexus and the McLaren. Now, we know the Lexus is one of the holy trinity for straight line speed, that being alongside the BMW M4 and the Ford Mustang to be some of the fastest cars in a straight line. So Bush will absolutely have straight line advantage. But up against twin turbos there in that McLaren, will he have the adage of acceleration on his side? There's a real question to throw up in the air here. This is going to be an interesting little study because rarely do we get the opportunity to have such long opening straights here that we get at Kyalami. I'd say the only other comparator we have is the Circuit of the Americas, which we'll have the pleasure of going to next Sunday for round 5 of the championship. Right now, though, as we get around Ingwe Curve, we are getting ever closer to the start of round 4 of the NLRL Sunday League Season 2, live from Midrand, South Africa, here at the Circuit Kyalami. Without further ado, as we go down towards the line for our first race here in South Africa, we are green and racing here in Johannesburg, and already a great start on the front row, but a fantastic start by Hayden Prodger in the background there, starting to make his way up towards the top 3. Wesley Kuiper, though, challenging Jason Bush down into turn 2. The hazards are on the Lexus as it runs wide around turn 2. Prodger gets turned around. Kuiper now side by side with Jason Bush as we go up route turn 3 and 4. The Juxke sweep gives rise to the turn 5 at Barbecue. They're still side by side now. Where does the penny drop in the pairing here at the front row? Francois de Bont still in 3rd position with Diman Ivanov chasing him from the outside as we head to turn 6. Kuiper's around the outside of Jason Bush. Where does it land between the two? Slight wheel rub between the 33 and the 111 down towards turn 7. Already an exciting start, but much to the chagrin of the 222 of Hayden Prodger, got turned around at turn 2 and is down the order. Eyeing up the back of the grid at the moment. An even worse start for the 666. James Robertson starts from the pit lane by the looks of it. The 107 of Dave Bond's already in trouble, bringing out temporary yellow flags as we headed into the S's at turn 8 and 9. Now out of Luakop, Jason Bush continues to lead. Wesley Kuiper chasing from 2nd. Francois de Bont makes the podium. Diman Ivanov, James Mason as well down the order. We see absolute maelstrom on the run down to turn 12 for the first time. It's actually side by side there with Milbank and Prodger in the background. We're watching from the perspective of Christian Lebay in the 119. Kevin Quain goes deep in towards turn 13. Charlie Smith runs it to the outside as well. We're just looking here, the maelstrom going on behind. Round cheetah curve for the first time. Fortunately, a relatively clean affair. We see that. I think there was a temporary outage for one of the drivers inside the top 10. We're going to quickly check across here. Kuiper still in second place. Ivanov, though, looking for third on Francois de Bont. The Aston Martin to the inside, down at turn 2. Is Ivanov going to be able to make this one stick on Francois de Bont? We know he can put up a serious fight when the time calls for it. De Bont tries for the switchback round the Juxke sweep, cannot land it. D-Man Ivanov up to third position then. Round turn 5 we go. Tyler Vermaak is right on the heels then of his fellow Ford Mustang. The number 4 meets the number 5 in 4th and 5th, no less. It's already an exciting start. We can see the two Aston Martins of Stoyanov and Prine side by side. You can see even further up the order. You can see there, that's Charlie Smith and Kevin Quain side by side. That's in control for 11th position. So we see there, Smith comes out on top down towards turn 7. And in the battle for 13th, it was Prine that came out on top of the two Aston Martins. Looking here with James Mason, he gets a clear line of sight of the 3 cars ahead of him. That's all the way up to the podium positions, but he's going to have to start looking in his rear view mirror because here comes Axel Cassier in the number 63. We're on board then with James Mason in his current fight, both for 6th and for 5th. We'll say it's for 6th at the moment. Cassier looking ever closer to the rear quarter of that BMW. He's going to have to start fending off the Belgian if he wants to hold on to 6th position. But Cassier is going for the inside. Down at turn 13. Nearly hits Vermaak on his way through. James Mason tries for the switchback. Will be to the inside at Cheetah Curve at turn 15. Manages to keep the position in line. Now towards turn 16 we go. We can see LeBay watching on from 8th position. Great defending there by James Mason as we see up the order. The two Mustangs start to go wide. Vermaak and de Bont looking to swap heads here for 4th position. Meanwhile, we're still watching the fight for 6th as in the background. We can see Quain and Proger side by side. So let's go and quickly see what is the going rate further down the order. James Robertson has a stop-go 30-second penalty. We want to see what was going on there with Hayden Proger. Of the two, he came out on top of Kevin Quain and is back into the top 10 on his charge towards a top 5 finish. He's got 56 minutes to make that happen. So Jason Bush still leads from Kuiper, 2.5 seconds up the road with Lexus at the moment. A great start by the American, hunting down his first win of the season. D-Man Ivanov still makes third and is by about a second there to Wesley Kuiper, potentially looking at a charge for 2nd. See here with Christian LeBay, he's now in 8th position, hunting down Cassier in Mason. In the background, though, we've got the battle between Bahena and Proger. Bahena in one of the highest positions he's been in all season. The number 18 will be looking to sternly fend off the 222, but he's having some troubles around the S's. It's setting Proger up for a dive around the outside at Learcop. You can see he's closing the Brit off there, trying to cut the nose off of the Ferrari. As now, trying for the switch back into turn 11, Hayden Proger puts himself front to rear with Julio Bahena. This is for 9th position, by the way, heading down into turn 12. We're watching with the perspective of the American of Julio Bahena. Hayden Proger goes for the inside at turn 13. The 222 up the inside at the Crocodiles on Julio Bahena. He's going to try and go the long way around town here towards turn 14. Will be to the outside at Cheetahs. This is a very dangerous position for Bahena. Succeeds the position there. May try his luck down into turn 16. Is just too far away. A great charge then by Hayden Proger, but he's at the mercy of the 5.4 litre V8 as we head down the opening straight out of turn 16 towards turn 1 and 2. But is it too little too late there? You can see now he's finally up towards top gear, but right as he's about to come onto the brakes, by that point, Proger is already far enough up the road to not have to worry too much about a potential dive bomb out of Bahena. Looking around the order, Axel Cassier drops down a position. Actually, it's Vermaak that goes up a position, now up to the top 5 and ahead of James Mason. Cassier is having a hunt down Mason for 6th position. Christian LeBay, watching from behind, is now an active participant in this potential fight to be for 7th position. So let's see if we can try and get on board. We see here, side by side, John Prine and Scott Milbank for 13th position. Milbank to the inside as we make it to turn 7. Contact between the pair of them. Then BMW and Aston make contact. Then Kyle Jenkins comes through and makes contact with Prine. We'll try and get on board then with the car firmly cemented into the battle here. That's James Mason having to defend from 6th position. He's got a clear line of sight of the fight for 7th right behind him. He's got a clear line of sight of the potential battle to be of 4th position ahead of him. currently fighting then for 6th position as Axel Cassier looks ever more eager to dive for position. He'll be eyeing his chances up down towards turn 2. May even try for it even earlier at Ingwe curve at upcoming turn 16 here as we exit turn 15. Cassier, you can see, was motioning to the inside and he sold him a dummy there, forcing that fake dive bomb defense. A very layered tactic in group racing, faking a dive bomb on drivers to make them go onto that defensive line. And that scrubs momentum away from them. It allows for moments like this where Cassier is right alongside Mason. Down towards turn 2 we go. LeBay's going to be actually to the outside of the BMW. May even try to follow Cassier through. They're still side by side, dancing around turns 2, 3, 4 and 5. This is absolutely brilliant stuff. James Mason on a stonewall defence of 6th. That is brilliant, brilliant stuff by the Brit. Out of turn 5 then, up towards turn 6. You can see just how close the Belgian is to him. Axel Cassier is fired up and ready to hunt down 6th position. You can see all the meanwhile calculating his next move is Christian LeBay in the 119. As we get in towards the first 10 minutes of racing then, a reminder from our sponsors of this season and of these broadcasts therein here on TRTN. Of course, this wouldn't be possible without our sponsors at Malwar Transport Incorporated, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. If you or someone you know are located in Canada and are looking for a professional and efficient transportation brokerage service for their business, visit their website on www.malwar-transport.ca. That's www.malwar-transport.ca. MALOIS-TRANSPORT.ca. Wouldn't be possible without them. They're the primary sponsors of this championship and of the Endurance Championship, which we'll be seeing the next round of, I think, this coming Saturday. So fantastic news to hear. LeBay nearly to the inside then on Axel Cassier. We continue on board with James Mason for that fight for 6th position. We may have to go on board very shortly as we see contact. It's Milbank and Smith that are around at turn 15. That's the cheetah curve. We thought there would have been trouble down at that section of the track. The yellow flags are out. Milbank is facing the wrong way. Major damages on the 44. And that's collected Charlie Smith, who has made his way into the pits almost instantly there. Back in the green flags for now. You see the aftermath of that collision. We don't know exactly what happened, but we know there was cars spinning aloft around turn 15. Charlie Smith with major damage to the side, so I believe it could have been side by side with them. One of them's clipped over the curb and sent the other into a dead spiral. As we saw, that was quite major stuff. Nonetheless, it's a free position for Prodger. He's up to 9th. We're watching with Christian LeBay as all the meanwhile through that chaos he surfed the madness to make his way to 7th and ahead of Axel Cassier. Hayden Prodger is gunning for 8th position. So we'll stay on board with Prodger as he looks to be the next in the order of battles for today. This is for 8th position, making the dive down at turn 10 at Leurkop. Gets the leg up on Axel Cassier, makes a swift and decisive move to 8th. What can the Mustang do then as we head out of turn 11? He'll have the momentum to charge at the Ferrari, perhaps even having a look down towards turn 13. We're out of turn 12 then, and Prodger holds the inside. He's already predicted where Cassier's going to try and place himself, but he's made himself extra vulnerable. The Belgian's got the racing line round turn 13. He's putting himself ever closer to Hayden Prodger. We stay on board then in the fight for 8th position. Axel Cassier may have lost the position now, but will he be able to hold on to the position now as we head through turn 16 and down the opening straight? This is where the Mustang really gets to open the taps here on the Ferrari. But fortunately, he's got the slipstream off of Christian LeBay just up the road from him there in the 119 Aston Martin. It was a very, very clinical move by Hayden Prodger. You can see up the order as well that Christian LeBay caught up by traffic. That's Charlie Smith in the 23s. We head up through the Juxgay sweep at turns 3 and 4. Now through turn 5 at Barbecue. Axel Cassier has not gone anywhere. We're in fact looking at the fight for 7th position as Prodger is right onto the tail end of Christian LeBay out of turn 5. Something had to have gone amiss for the 119 to put himself 0.2 of a second from the Ferrari. So out through Sunset. You see Prodger not really suffering from too much aero stall as he's right on the tail of LeBay. It's one of the most common issues we see in these races when they get front to rear. Often is the case where you see aero stall over the splitter. The front end just doesn't cooperate this close, and in the dirty air of another car, you see Smith taking almost a dive there off at the S's. He's going to try and move out of the way here of the imminent fight for 7th position, but he's still going long into it there. He's still holding the inside. He's denied anyone a move to the inside. And fair enough, he's in the wrong place at the wrong time there. Cassier's not going to be super happy with him as he's still side by side on the run down towards turn 12. But there, Smith tucking back in. We're still watching with Proger as he hunts down LeBay for 7th position. This is a fantastic crossover. Rarely have we seen these two on the same stretch of the track together, but now they're sharing in one of the most technical sections here at Kyalami. Out through turn 13, now 14, now turn 15 at Cheetah. Right behind them all the meanwhile is Axel Cassier to make this threes company in the fight for 7th. LeBay's going to have to put on a solid defensive performance, but he's left himself incredibly vulnerable to Hayden Proger right onto the back now of the Aston Martin. You can see just how much power the V12 is giving LeBay in this situation. Even after a conceded line at turn 16, he's able to rocket away there with reckless abandon. Yellow flags came out for the 111. Wesley Kuiper appeared to be in some trouble, but even further up the order, it looks like the 413 could be in a spot above her, that being James Mason in 6th. Right now, remains in 6th position, 3.2 seconds up the road. Ivanov's up to 5th with Aston Martin. We're still on with the fight of 7th, though it seems readily apparent that further drama is unfolding ahead of us in the fight for 5th. We're going to try and get a look on board with that just as we cut away here towards turn 7. You can see the Aston and the BMW, but to the inside goes Hayden Proger, so we're not going to be going away from everything, as Hayden Proger is now up to 7th position there, out through turn 7. LeBay now forced into the sights of Axel Cassier, the 63, fired up and looking to reclaim positions here. He's already lost out to Hayden Proger. He's not about to lose out again. And eyeing up the Aston going into Le Cop. Doesn't look at a move just yet, but you can see him motioning ever closer to the 119. We'll catch up with these three in a moment's time as we try and get a look at what's going on further down the field. And you can see things are getting very close between Vermaak, De Bont and Kuiper. The two Mustangs slowly making the charge up towards 2nd place. Wesley Kuiper has been left in a state more vulnerable than he'd like. This is almost akin to his performance back at Spa-Francorchamps. And at the moment, De Bont is vehemently defending a 3rd place finish. He's eyeing up his first podium in a long time here. Ivanov and Mason close to one another. We're going to quickly get back on board with one of our 3 cars in the fight for 7th position. It's Christian LeBay looking to fight back on Hayden Proger. A little bit of contact out of turn 1 at the kink, but now at Crowthorns, the Aston is to the advantage down on the inside at turn 2. What can he do against Hayden Proger? We know that the Ferrari is going to try and eye up a switchback. He's denied on the inside line, but Proger has so much more momentum to give up the Juxkay sweep. Christian LeBay tried for it, but is he going to be able to make the move stick? Out through turn 5 does not appear to be the case. Meanwhile, you can see that Cassier slowly reeling in the Aston Martin. He's been waiting for more mistakes there. He knows that LeBay isn't going to want to concede any more positions, so he's going to try and gamble for this position ahead of him, trying everything that he can against Hayden Proger. The moment that he does make a mistake, and he's ensuring that the Aston will make a mistake by constantly keeping that pressure on him, he'll be right there for when he does and trying to take it off the 119. All mind games going on at the moment. We're back with the battle of the two Mustangs, De Bont v Vermaak. This is for 3rd position in the race. We've got 2 battles to cut between then, as Proger continues to open the taps here and get up into 7th position. We'll be slowly but surely hunting down the 2 in front of him, Diman Ivanov and James Mason. So we'll stay on board with Vermaak and De Bont nearly front to rear quarter out of turn 13. Now Tyler Vermaak has quite the expectation set on him for this battle. Of course, this is his home race here in South Africa. Is not looking to disappoint in front of the home crowd. So out through turn 16 we go. Vermaak's got a decent run here on De Bont. Both of them are at level pegging for straight line speed. Of course, both driving the Ford Mustang, both having to deal with that 15 kilo deficit coming into this round. On that last lap, it was De Bont who was ever so slightly faster than Vermaak. Quickly checking in on that fight behind. As you can see, it starts to stabilise. 0.5 of a second between Proger and LeBay. Same gap between LeBay and Cassier. Right now, this is one of our closest battles on track. And it is certainly eyeing up to be one of the more exciting, as these two are totally locked in feud here. They are properly level for times over the course of the last couple of laps. And it is brilliant to see drivers of such similar skill gap, I'd say. It's such similar skill variety, skill level, whatever you want to call it. Go head to head here. You get to see these very elegant battles. They're just following on each other's lines. That slow picking away for an opportunity. As you can see, going a little bit wide through the S's. All of that's going to add up in the end. One slight mistake could dictate who finishes third in this race at the moment. For Vermaak, he's preying on a mistake out of De Bont ahead of him. You can see not too far up the road. That's Wesley Kuiper in second. He's dropped a massive gap away from Jason Bush, who now leads this race by nearly over 6 seconds. So with over a quarter of an hour into this race, Jason Bush leads by 6.2 seconds as of the last data recording. Francois de Bont, we can see here, battling with Tyler Vermaak for third position. Diman Ivanov in fifth. James Mason in sixth position. Further down the line, you can also see the fight between Proger, Lebay and Cassier, all for seventh position. We're back on board with our fight for third as we continue to recount our standing order. Kevin Quain in 10th position, Julio Bahena in 11th, Kyle Jenkins 12th, John Prine in 13th, Stoyanov 14th, Bond 15th, Smith 16th, Milbank 17th, and Robertson in 18th position. We're down one driver after a quarter of an hour. We're still on board then, the fight of third, from the perspective of the attacking car, the number 5, Tyler Vermaak. As he looks to engage here with Francois de Bont, the number 4. And now this is as close as they've ever been. Is Vermaak going to try for something crazy here around turn 6? He just doesn't have enough momentum carried to make that possible. Could line this up for a potential move all the way down in Leurkop. So this is really where the planning phase starts to begin in these battles. Quite some distance away. He's hoping that De Bont scrubs a bit more of that momentum that he's carrying at the moment down through the S's. You can see just how easy it is to lose out time. A little dip here and there over the curbs is slowing down De Bont, but he's holding centre mass of the road. Vermaak's looking for any possible gap that he can get here out of Leurkop. May very well nearly have found the line there, but just a little too late. You can see already having the longer line. De Bont's got more time to spool up and accelerate away. Just giving him the leg up down towards this major attacking spot, which Vermaak is going to try for. Goes very deep into that corner. Is De Bont going to be able to switch him back before we get to Cheetah? Vermaak is keeping it pedal to the metal here. The South African's up to third as we enter Cheetah corner. That was some real gusto by Tyler Vermaak to do that move. That was absolutely fantastic stuff. You can see properly launched it in at turn 13. You can see where De Bont had the initiative to try for the switchback, but by that point Vermaak had slammed his foot through the bulkhead of his car and was moving at great speed to keep third place. It's 0.3 of a second now in favour of Vermaak, ahead of De Bont, fighting for third position. Next in his sights will be Wesley Kuiper, but he goes wide around Crowthorns. That's slowly inviting De Bont back into the fray for third position. A great battle between these two. A lot of respect between the 5 and 4, the fellow Mustang drivers, battling here at this leg of the championship. So down through turn 6 at the moment. Vermaak holds on to third ahead of De Bont. Let's get a look around the track then to see where our next fights are coming from now. One of our previous fights we were paying attention to was that for 7th, and we can see Lebay still holding on at 8th, Cassier down to 9th, Proger in 7th, currently in en passant at the moment. That's not changed since the last time we've seen it. Looking around the track, we can see Kyle Jenkins and Julio Bahena separated by just under a second to one another. Jenkins further up the track than Bahena as we enter turn 6. No imminent threat of a battle on the horizon between these two as of right now. We'll catch up with them later on. Axel Cassier slowly closing on Lebay, but at the moment, like we said before, that stayed in en passant since we last saw it. That's in a stalemate for now. Kuiper is now 7.2 seconds down the road. I must go back then to our fight of the two Mustangs. As we see, when we were watching with Kuiper, we saw things spill over. It's now back in the core of Francois de Bont as he takes third off of Tyler Vermaak. In the background as well, you can see that's Diman Ivanov with Aston Martin, who's now become a third element in this fight. What was 2's company now becomes 3, as we now find 3 drivers in all fighting for third. Francois de Bont then takes back third position in Sector 3 of this track. The number 4 is doing remarkably well to fend off Tyler Vermaak there. We thought it was down and out after that fantastic launch down through turn 13 by Vermaak in the lap just gone. This is looking to spice up very nicely towards the halfway mark of this race. Tyler Vermaak trying everything he can here through the Juxke sweep and barbecue, turns 3 through 5. to have a go at the position, but it can't find the momentum in Sector 1. It's going to have to try and loop it all the way through Sector 2 to have a go here on Francois Dubon. Could he be looking even at a move down at turn 7? You can see where that snap happens across the track from left to right. That's usually one of the major indicators for drivers to maybe run it wide and try for that move on the inside. It can be quite assertive, can often lead to accidents. Many drivers choose to not attempt it there. There's a better opportunity coming up here at turn 10. We're still on board with Francois Dubon as he fights for third position at the moment, fending off Tyler Vermaak and Dima Ivanov and the number 5 and number 1 in a 3-car fight for the last of them podium positions. Bear in mind, Dima Ivanov is moving very fast now. He's closed that gap up rather nicely in the last lap just gone and is now eyeing up the rear quarters of Tyler Vermaak's number 5 Mustang. Vermaak properly late braking there to keep himself in line with Dubon out of turn 13. Now around turn 14, around at the Crocodiles, turn 15 at Cheetah. All of them dodging that inside curb. No one wants to try their luck at this section of the track. They'd rather take the line a little bit wider and just not sacrifice the potential position at hand and run the risk of flying rather violently, mind you, off the track. And this is looking very, very close at the moment. Tyler Vermaak's got good momentum down into turn 2, but can't find his way to outbrake Francois Dubon. Dima Ivanov holding position there from 5th. This is exciting stuff to be occurring inside our top 5, and it could become 4 cars very soon. As you can see, since Francois Dubon has retaken 3rd, he is starting to close the gap down to 2nd place, that being Wesley Kuiper, who's 1.7 seconds up the road at the moment. You now see it's become 2's company for now, as Dima Ivanov drops away by about 7/10 of a second. The gap much closer now between Dubon and Vermaak for control of 3rd position. We'll try and get on board with the attacking car then, to give us a better perspective just how close these two are at the moment and just how close Ivanov is to this pair of Ford Mustangs. This is from the perspective of the number 5, Tyler Vermaak, as we go heading out of the S's. You can see over his rear quarter, the Aston is not too far away at all, but right in front of him there, that's the position at hand. 3rd place, this is what he's been fighting for the last couple of laps. Briefly had that position in the palm of his hands, lost out going into this section of the track, and the last lap gone. The last lap's gone, I should say. Down through turn 13 we go. Then turn 14's up next. Dima Ivanov has massively closed the gap. So we could be looking here at the fight for 4th position. Dima Ivanov is eyeing up 4th off of Tyler Vermaak as we head into the Ingwe curve. The Aston Martin's going to stay on the racing line. Is it going to be trying for a move to the inside just yet? Knows it would be futile to try and go toe-to-toe with the Mustang in a straight line. You can see, even though the Aston doesn't have the same straight line advantage that Ford does, it is tucking very nicely into the slipstream, following Vermaak all the way down to Crowthorns. We're back into that fight for 3rd. He's closed the gap back up to Dubon as we enter Crowthorns, now the Juxgay sweep. These three have made for a very exciting battle here. At the moment being governed on pace alone, though I do see some theatrics on the horizon. They're getting just closer and closer every going lap. Ivanov, you can see, is right up on the rear quarter now of Tyler Vermaak, really putting the pressure on the South African here at his home race. Heading down into the S's we go. Turns 8 and 9. See now that Vermaak has started copying Dubon's line. He's starting to figure out where the most amount of momentum's coming from here in this fight. These cars are, despite the ballasts between them, they're all quite evenly matched. Now that Aston Martin is 15 kilos to Ford's 14 kilos. Where that necessarily places them is, even though they've got that ballast on there, the handling's still going to be worse off for all three of them. They're now unified on engine. All three of these cars utilising V8 engines. The Ford's using a 5.4 from M Sport, co-designed across the UK and the US, so a transatlantic affair to make this engine possible. And that Aston Martin uses a German engine, an AMG twin-turbo V8 sourced from the Mercedes AMG GT. So 2 fantastic engine suppliers head-to-head here as we slowly see Wesley Kuiper become an active member of this fight. What is about to elevate up to the fight of 2nd place as Kuiper is slowly bleeding time away. Now we do have yellow flags out for Sector 3. That's at the moment for the number 23 car We try and get a look on board here to see what happened. It's Charlie Smith in trouble. That's his second run into the pits this race. He'll be losing position out to Scott Milbank. It looks like major steering damage for the 23 as well. That could even mark the end of his race today. Wesley Kuiper, though, is into the pits after a sudden accident there. The 111 is into the pit stop and has forfeited position. What we're now seeing to become the battle of third is now the battle of second, as Francois Dubon elevates to second position, Vermaak to third, Ivanov to fourth. What on earth had to have happened when we were paying attention to what happened to Charlie Smith to have had to have happened to the 111? Wesley Kuiper may very well be out of this race. In a sudden turn of fate for the 111, is this going to be a repeat story of last weekend when we had Wesley Kuiper potentially out of the race in Bathurst, came back out on track to finish 11th? The fate hangs in the balance of the Dutchman at the moment. It seems that consistency seems to have been a major concern, or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. There goes Vermaak. Same move as the last couple of laps before, but this may have been just a little too much for him to handle. He's right alongside D-Man. Ivanov could lose position out here at Cheetah and gets contact for his efforts. Tyler Vermaak spins around alongside D-Man Ivanov. That's a big off there. James Mason nearly collected by the pair of them. So as you can see, he went wide out of turn 13, following through turn 14. Ivanov's to the inside there. It's just a little too much of a squeeze between the pair of them. Contact between Ivanov and Vermaak spells a very quick end to his fight for second position. He's now down to fifth behind Ivanov. Mason moves up to the podium positions, and Christian LeBay eyes a top five. D-Man Ivanov side by side with James Mason. We're going to have to get on board very quickly here with Ivanov as he looks to take another stab at a position. James Mason loses out of third position, I should say. He's down to fourth. Ivanov is up to third. It has been a remarkable drive by D-Man Ivanov, just putting himself in the right place at the right time there. Save for that contact down at turn 15. It's been a grand race for the Aston Martin. James Mason, though, is not giving this up without a fight. He's been enthusiastic all day long coming into this race. He's been first out of the gates for most of this and wants to be on the podium when the checkered flag drops. He's got 31 and a half minutes to do so. He's been granted a Deus Ex Machina here with the 111 presumably out of this race. This is his best opportunity here to fight for a podium. Can see though that BMW is struggling now that the Aston's out in front. Ivanov's got clinical control of the number one at the moment, where as you can see, Mason is wrestling the 413 into submission through most of the corners here. He's just teetering around oversteer. He's using almost what looks like the center throttle technique. You can see where the car is just poking, but it's a little too much over Cheetah. A big jump by Mason. May as well, yes, losing the position there out to Vermaak, nearly to LeBay. Let's get a replay on that. This is exactly what we've been fearing over the course of this race. This is the bane of all drivers coming into Kyalami. Is going a little too far to the inside, and he literally gains air there, all four wheels off the ground. The BMW's still going, but he may lose position here for fifth. He's going to have to hold centre mass of the road down into turn two. Vermaak goes wide, but so too does Mason. Through goes Christian LeBay up to the top five with Aston Martin. Sudden drama then inside the top 10 from the word go there. The second half eyeing up to be a drastically different affair than the first half. Hayden Prodger, all the meanwhile, has made his way up to 8th. Half an hour left to go then. What an exciting opening half hour that's been. Let's get on board with the fight at the moment of, this is 5th position for Christian LeBay versus James Mason. And having a look at our top 10 then at the halfway mark of this race, it's Jason Bush that still leads. He's led all 17 laps with the fastest lap. We are looking at a real interesting story today. Jason Bush could become our 4th named to the list of race winners in Season 2. Becomes the 4th driver in a row of brand new drivers to win a race here in Season 2, and it'll be his first career win, and it'll extend his championship lead. By the looks of it at the moment, Francois Dubon looks for a very exciting second position finish. D-Man Ivanov's hunting down another podium with Aston Martin. Vermaak behind him in 4th. We're seeing at the moment the battle of 5th here. Last season's champion Christian LeBay looks to shove a few positions here. He's currently 3rd in the championship. He's looking to elevate things up towards second. Even of those still ahead of him there, that gap will still be incredibly close going into Austin next weekend. James Mason's right behind him then in 6th position. Cassiers in 7th, Project 8th, Quain 9th, Jenkins 10th, Bahena 11th, Stoyanov 12th, Prime 13th, Bond 14th, Milbank 15th, Robertson 16th, and Kuiper in 17th position. It looks seemingly to be the case then. Wesley Kuiper is out of round 4. That's got to be gut-wrenching for the XEC champion. He was hunting down a potentially great result this season. He's already got his share of race wins at the moment, winning back in Donington Park at round 2 of the championship. Since that point, it's just not been his day. And this looks to be the same story coming into South Africa. He's hoping then that the Dutchman can pick up the pieces going in to Austin, Texas next weekend. Of course, he accumulated for over 50% of race wins last season alone. It was a grand record to behold, but sadly it was too little too late as he wasn't in the points consistently enough. On that other half of races, he was often more than not a DNF, which is what gave rise to Christian Lebey's championship hopes in the 119. It was consistency over results, being consistently in and around that top 5, greater beyond that of top 10, is what netted the Canadian his decisive championship victory over his rival Carmelo Abate, who sadly isn't present in this race today. The epitome then of keeping the ball rolling. Christian Lebey still in 5th position and holding strong against the BMW behind him. James Mason slowly making his way in the frame there. He's starting to learn the vital lessons in Sector 3. Not to try your luck out of turn 15 at all. You can see the BMW is now right on the rear end of the Aston Martin. Now these two are surprisingly quite well matched for straight line speed. The Aston Martin, as old as it is, and the fact that it's one of the only, if not the only, V12 engines in circulation on ACC, still has formidable straight line speed. Not great line speed. It has great straight line speed, if that's what I'm trying to say. Nonetheless, it's enough just about to go toe-to-toe with BMW. So we'll leave you with the battle of the moment of 5th position with Christian Lebey and James Mason. We'll be back in just a moment. We just got back to the microphone there. You see James Mason going wide out of turn 13. That brings about the end of the battle of 5th position for now. Christian Lebey will be holding on to a decisive top 5 with 25.5 minutes left to go. We have a look around the track here to see where our next fights could be coming from. Of course, our previous hopes did lie on that top 5 battle, but since that off by James Mason going very wide has brought about a temporary end to that. It's 2 seconds, the gap between himself and Christian Lebey for the time being, with a slow crawl back to 5th position for Mason. And the best of things here, 24.5 minutes left to go here in round 4 of the championship. Wide again out of the S's. Repeated troubles here on the tyres of the 413 BMW. Speaking of BMWs, this is James Robertson, the 666. A late entry through qualifying. And down through turn 2, currently 16th in this race. with damages. This is Hayden Prodger slowly making the time up on Axel Cassier, though losing out at turn 13. You can see where the drivers really do gamble with fate through turn 15, with that cloud of dust is being kicked up. You can tell the drivers sacrificed going to the inside, has gone a little bit wider and is just teetering with the possibility of spinning out there. Too much grass over the left-hand side, especially when it's load-bearing, could easily send the car into a dead spiral and bring about a very early end to their racing hopes. As we get on in this race at the moment, it looks to stay dry coming into the second half of the race. Cloudy conditions anticipated on the horizon for at least the next 30 minutes. So our current fears then of potential wet and inclement weather on the horizon has been quickly quelled, as we're still in nice sunny and dry conditions. Though it was surprising to see that little spur of rain bring an early stop to qualifying. That's what I believe was the beginning of the cemented hopes for Jason Bush to go on to lead and potentially, by the looks of it, win his first race of Sunday League history. So a very quick rise to success. He's been a consistent visitor to the podium then. Let's go on board with the 33 of Jason Bush over the course of this next coming lap. You can see in front at the moment the 22 and the 666 are close to each other, but on separate lengths of the race, that being John Prine and James Robertson. Consistency has been key then for the 33 coming into this round. He was predicted at pole position, managed to just about clinch pole position off of Wesley Kuiper and elevated that to a fantastic start where he has absolutely dominated the field. I think we are seeing the beginning of another Lebay-esque story here, where old machinery has gone toe-to-toe with the brand new cars and has absolutely levelled the floor of competition at the moment. And unlike the story of Lebay, where he was always tantalisingly close to a race win, that opportunity never materialised just due to the stiff competition up front from Kuiper and Milliston. And earlier in the season as well, off of drivers like Louis Baptiste in Season 1. Right now, Jason Bush has been given the best opportunity in-house to rise to the front of this field. And with 21 and a half, just under 21 and a half minutes left to go, it is all on him now to make it count. As he's looking just over the horizon at a potential race win here in Sunday League. It'll become our fourth new name on the list, making what has been an incredibly exciting start to the league. You can see at the moment Lebay, last season's winner, still inside the top 5, so we'll be slowly chipping away at the positions in this championship. Now we want to take a look here with just around 20, well, just under 21 minutes left to go in this race. At the championship standings heading into this round, it's Bush that leads with 116 points. Now the gap between first and second is only a mere 10 points. Dima Ivanov second with 106, Christian Lebay with 105. Now that gap is set to open between those two coming out of this round, with Ivanov up in third, Lebay in fifth. DeBont is in fourth in the championship with 102 points. Cassier fifth with 95 points. Ian Skeen, last weekend's race winner with Aston Martin, sadly a no-show for Kyalami, has 92 points and ahead of Kevin Quain with 89, set to move up a position by the end of this round. Wesley Kuiper, sadly, will remain with 88 points by the looks of it. Looks to be another DNF by the Dutchman. Joint ninth to round out our top 10 positions. James Mason and Ben Cheeseman with 86 points in the championship. I want to pay close attention to the dynamic going on between the top three, Ivanov, Bush and Lebay. Now these are two brand new drivers and a returning driver from last season. This is a very interesting precipice to say the least, with Ivanov looking hopeful for another podium and Bush looking for his first race win. Lebay's going to have quite the handful here to retain his championship mark heading into the second half of the season. Now we're at the halfway mark next Sunday at the Circuit of the Americas. Thereafter the rounds become finite with 5 left to go. And this is really going to be the decision maker here for Christian Lebay. Are we going to see the potential greatness of a first for Lebay, a potential first race win this season? He's definitely been fired up even more so than he was last season. He was always a consistent visitor to the top 10. You can really see the intensity start to pile on. He's been doing his homework in the off-season and is among the fastest users of the V12 Vantage. As a matter of fact, he was looking at Bathurst last weekend. The times that he was setting going into qualifying predictions and going into the practice sessions for that race were in and around the... Actually, I think it was the fastest time using pit skill BOP for the V2 Advantage globally. So that is a remarkable feat of racing and of qualifying pace from LeBay. So I can absolutely see in the near future LeBay and Bush side by side in battle for a lead. Mark my words on that. I really do hope that we get to see that by the end of this season. So you can see that their paths are inevitably going to cross at this leg of the championship. Now we're looking to see the rise of the 33. Where does the penny drop for last season's champion? Only time will be able to tell you that much. We're back on board then with the race leader, Jason Bush, in the 33 Lexus. Now looking on for the timer of this race. 18 minutes left to go. So it is looking very, very much so like the first race win for Jason Bush. And this will also mark the first time in Sunday League history that an American driver has won a race. This will be the first ever we've ever seen of it. So history in the making here. The first time a Lexus has won a race in Sunday League. The first time an American has won a race in Sunday League. And the first time that Jason Bush has won a race in the Sunday League. And the fourth driver in a row of consecutive new race winning drivers. So we are looking at what is possibly the greatest championship I have ever covered. We are seeing constant reminders that history is being made. We're seeing new records every single race. It was an Aston Martin 1-2 that we got to see in the making last weekend, courtesy of Ian Skeen and Christian LeBay. It was a fantastic battle to the line that we saw with Bush and LeBay, mind you, but it wasn't for the race lead. I think it is only a matter of time before that becomes a fight from second to a fight from first. Looking around the field then, here's Tyler Vermack, 6 seconds from Ivanov. Still got plenty of time to try and close that gap down before the end of this race. He's clear of LeBay at the moment. Doesn't have too much to worry about with the 119 behind him. 3 seconds, the gap between the Mustang and the Aston, heading into lap 25. Kevin Quain has slowly chipped away at the masses here to make his way into the top 10. He's ahead of Kyle Jenkins. And behind Axel Cassier, the 706 with Malwar Racing is looking confident here for another solid points finish. As for Julio Bahena, fellow Ford Mustang appears to be suffering with some connection trouble in the number 18. Could that bring about an early stop to his race? One does wonder. We do now have official confirmation of DNF from Wesley Kuiper. The 111 is out of round 4. The championship, sadly, will remain with 88 points, moving him further down going into round 5. It's going to take a serious comeback drive for Kuiper to salvage this. Though I do remain hopeful, looking at the performance he's had over the course of this season, that is possible for him. I think we just saw there nearly a disconnect from Bahena. He is still on track out of turn 16. We don't have current feed from him at the moment, but he is 8 seconds up the road from this driver, the 66 of Marian Stoyanov. James Mason's had a bit of a mixed race at the moment. Some highs and some lows there, and very nearly a possible race ending off there as he went flying all 4 wheels in total. In fact, I think we still have that replay of when Mason went over. This is a few laps ago now, as he goes flying over turn 16, or turn 15, I should say. That's Cheetah Corner, up over all 4 wheels, and a big rally-esque slide out of turn 15. He was doing quite well there. Good reflexes by the 413 to have salvaged that. As he goes around that corner now, you can see he's learned his lesson. He's not going to be trying for the inside anytime soon. 2.5 seconds behind him at the moment is Hayden Prodger in the 222. So we may be seeing the slow kindlings here of a fight for 6th position on the horizon. You can see Prodger is looking fired up in that Ferrari. It may not have been the start he was looking for, but he's getting ever closer to the possibility of a top 5 finish. He wants to make this net neutral by the end of this race. Doesn't want to have crossed the finish line having lost positions overall. So do keep a close eye on these two. We'll catch up with them later on. See at the moment, Scott Milbank's about 4 seconds down the road from Dave Bond. There could be the imminent threat of a fight between those two for 14th in the near future. Looking around the field, of course, we've already just discussed the project is slowly making his way towards Mason. Now, given the turnaround we saw, it was a very promising and hopeful start there, but I think it was down through turn 2. Just a big squeeze for Prodger. And cars around him swallowed him up through turn 2 and spat him out down the order, but he's made very great strides to push back against the competition today. With 14 minutes left to go, it's absolutely on the table for him to try for 6th position on the form that he's been on over the course of the last couple of laps. He could absolutely catch James Mason on this form. We'll see then where that goes in the next couple of laps. Looking around the field, Jason Bush now has James Robertson for company. Lapped traffic ahead of him there. The 666 BMW about to be lapped by the number 33 Lexus RCF. I want to point out as well, whilst we were talking about records as well that we're seeing, of course, obviously first American driver to win a race. Looks like it could be for Jason Bush. First Lexus to win a race. 4th name on the list of consecutive race winners. Consecutive new race winners, I should say. So 4 different names on that list. Taking a look at the previous wins, of course, you'll be adding to that with Melvin Milliston, Wesley Kuiper, and Ian Skeen having won the last 3 rounds. Round 4 looks to go in favour of Jason Bush to make it a new name on that list. It'll also be a new car on that list. So, of course, we mentioned first race win by Lexus, but it'll also be the 4th new manufacturer to win a race. So BMW, McLaren and Aston, no one manufacturer over the course of the season thus far has shared in multiple race wins. In Season 2, it was obviously a completely different story back in Season 1, where McLaren, courtesy of drivers like Louis Baptiste and Wesley Kuiper, annihilated any hopes of other manufacturers taking a stab at the most amount of race wins that season. Over 60% of all race wins won by, all races, I should say, won by a McLaren 720S GT3 Evo. That was an utterly dominant machine, but this has been a championship better described by its variety than by its numerics. By its numerics, I should say. It's really been up in the air at the moment, but extending that championship lead, so it seems, will be Jason Bush. So let's have a look around the field to see what the current state of affairs is for Christian LeBay. James Mason has not caught up to him. In fact, that time has dropped away to 8 seconds, and he's slowly being caught up by Hayden Prodger. We'll be going on board with that very, very soon. Christian LeBay has not also made any further large strides towards the top 4. He's still up just over 2.5 seconds away from Tyler Vermack, just under 3 as of last lap gone. .5 minutes left to go. We've already covered 28 laps here at Circuit Kyalami. There's been a fantastic 4th round of the championship, one that looks to crown a new race winner. We're hoping we can see that pattern continue all the way into Austin next Sunday. As for pundits on who could be our potential next race winner, now, it would take quite a lot to disrupt the status quo set in standard by Kuiper and Bush. But you've got a fair chance here for quite a few drivers to come through the ranks and really challenge what it is to win a race here in the Sunday League. Now, one driver I would throw on the table, sadly not in this round at the moment, but is raced before in this championship, and that would be the 313 of Hayden Puttock. Now, for those of you keen-eyed viewers that have been watching across the various series that we do cover, you'll know that Hayden Puttock, also on the Euro Titans lineup alongside drivers like Tyler Vermack, who's on screen at the moment, has won a race at COTA and won up against the then gold classification champion. What's a gold standard? It's a gold championship winner, Just Boris, in the 999. He won in the 313 Honda NSX that he also uses in this championship. So if Puttock does enter, he's absolutely got the makings of a race win in COTA. I would put him on the table of drivers that could win next Sunday's race if he shows up. You're also looking at another driver here that's got the capacity to go on to win races. Tyler Vermack has definitely rolled with the punches greater than a lot of the competition around him. It's just a pity then that he's quite some way down in the championship standings. He may not be gunning for a championship, but you've absolutely got the makings of a race winner. And this experimentation that he's been going with over the course of the last 4 weeks with both car choice and tuning choice, it shows that he's definitely playing with what the options are on the table, and he's been exploring all boundaries of what he can and can't do as a driver. And this capacity for change and being able to morph around his surroundings, he's got great adaptability as a driver, especially this early in his career in esports. There's absolutely the proceedings of a race winner on our hands here. Another driver I would absolutely throw into that ring is Christian LeBay. The moment he gets the opportunity to fight up front, he absolutely takes it. We saw it last weekend in Bathurst when he went toe-to-toe with Jason Bush for second place. Now, just think, all it would take is for one position ahead to drop, or for them to be just slightly faster on the day, and they'd be fighting for first place. So there is absolutely nothing to say that Christian LeBay cannot win a race this season. We've said it before and we'll say it again. That is another likely pick going into next Sunday's race. Jason Bush, of course, it'd be very, very difficult to upset the balance that he's got today. And it'll be even harder now that he'll be riding on the successes of a race win going into next weekend. Another driver absolutely on the charters here is Hayden Prodger. His qualifying performance has been fantastic. We're seeing right now the fight for sixth as he's alongside James Mason, and down towards turn 12 we go. He'll be to the inside on the BMW. It's very close between the pair of them, very nearly contact. Mason holds the outside. Great momentum from the BMW, but he goes long into turn 13. Prodger's to the inside now as we make turn 14. It's foot to the floor between the pair of them. This is where things get dangerous. Down through turn 15 we go. Minor contact. Mason's into the gravel. Prodger slowing down by the looks of it to let Mason back up in front. That's good sportsmanship there by the pair of them. So they've sorted that incident out on their own. And out through turn 16. That's Vermaak. So Tyler Vermaak ran into a spot of bother. And suddenly, we've seen what was the battle of 6th slowly bleed into the possibility of a battle for 5th. So this is remarkable stuff. We'll stay on board with Hayden Prodger at the back of this soon-to-be 3-car battle for 5th position. And this is very, very important for him. Of course, he qualified inside the top 5, and now looking towards the inside at Juxgay into the barbecue curb at turn 5 on James Mason. He's just slowly picking away at his options here on the BMW in front of him. He's practically riding the rear bumper in towards Sunset curb at turn 6. Prodger's eyeing up his options here. This is him for 6th position. Puts himself nearly front to rear quarter, now nearly side by side. Out of turn 7 at Clubhouse. He's trying for the long way around down towards the S's. A little bit of rubbing there between the BMW and the Ferrari. The BMW will be to the inside at the S's. Prodger's trying for the long way around here. Very nearly looks to have a look at it through turn 9. This is going to carry all the way into Le Cop. The Ferrari scrubbing momentum, but he's ahead of the BMW. Come everything said and done. Mason's trying for the inside at Lurkop. This has been fantastic. A little bit bumping there between the pair of them. Out through turn 11 we go. Prodger's going to have more momentum as he takes the wider line through turn 10. And that sets him up for a very interesting set of events to transpire out of turn 12 into turn 13. But Mason's holding towards the inside. Prodger, you could see, was going for it there. Had to snap back to the left of the road. Saint-Omas was held by the BMW. That's good defence from Mason. A little bit of bumping. Could maybe have gone without that, but right now, they're in the heat of the moment. You really can't take that away from them. It's pretty easy from our position as commentators to watch and scoff at certain things like that. But these are, at the end of the day, drivers operating at the apex of their ability. You can't take that away from them. And certainly doesn't look to be the case that they're going to be stopping anytime soon. Prodger's right on the back of Mason on their way down the opening straight. Out through turn 1 at the kink. Then to Crowthorns. Prodger's a little bit further away than he'd like to be to try for a move on the inside. But he's definitely gotten it nailed on the brakes there. Just slowly pressuring the BMW into making another mistake. He knows he could be vulnerable through turn 1 and... turn 2, 3 and 4. But out through turn 5 this time around, it's the BMW that looks to be getting away here. Up toward turn 6. All the meanwhile, Tyler Vermaak has opened the taps back up since his incident there that brought him into line with P6 and P7. He's now 2 seconds up the road from either of these two. As we exit turn 7 at Clubhouse, whatever it was that set Vermaak back on his tracks has quickly been resolved. The South African will still see a top 5 finish by the looks of it. 5 minutes left to go, and we're still on board with the exciting battle of 6th position here between Hayden Prodger and James Mason. The two Brits duking it out here. BMW versus Ferrari down at Lurkop. And this seems to really be the major action spot on track at the moment. Turn 12 into turn 13, this rocketing section of the track. So much momentum being carried into this heavy braking zone. The drivers have been capitalising on this all race long. But then it brings us into one of the most dangerous sections of the track where we've just gone over there. Turn 15 at Cheetah. Neither of these two showing any degree of fear now. No degree of aberrance through this section. It's hell for leather. Flat out stuff. Absolutely nothing risked. Cassier down the road there, you can see 4.5 seconds off this fight at the moment. Right now, these two totally tunneled in on one another as we head down towards Crowthorns. The 666 is in trouble there out of turn 5 up towards turn 6. That's James Robertson. Side by side now out of turn 2. Proger to the outside of the Juxgay sweep. You can see just how close it was. There millimetres between the front and rear of the BMW and the Ferrari. This is shaping up to be a very exciting end to round 4 of the championship. Down towards turn 6 we go. It's 0.1 of a second between Ferrari and BMW. You can see whatever it was Mason's doing is properly leaving the Ferrari for dead through turn 6. Where momentum becomes a concern, the BMW you can almost rely on for certainly carrying among the most. Bear in mind, that Ferrari's not lost or gained any kilos coming into this round. The BMW's got a little bit more weight to play with. That's actually working to great effect for James Mason. Leveraging what I think is about 11 kilos for this round. To give him slightly more swinging power in through these corners. And that's going to be the same story heading down towards Mineshaft at turn 12. Still watching on board then with the 222. Hayden Proger hunting down 6th. The chance of a top 5 may have slipped away in and amongst the final minutes of the race. He's on the inside at turn 13. You can see he's properly squeezing Mason for position. Mason's going to have to try something very crazy into turn 15. Proger backs out of it. No, he knows now. He doesn't want to try and spin Mason out. He wants to try and take the position legit. And down through Ingwe Curve, you can see he was side by side with the BMW, but now it's a drag race between Proger and Mason. Mason goes wide at turn 16, but that BMW is one of the holy trinity for straight line speed. So Proger is incredibly vulnerable as we head through turn 1. You can see he's already holding the left-hand side of the road. Mason's looking for the gap, and he's found it. Down towards turn 2, though. He's still going to make it stick past the apex here. Both of them running wide into the Juxgay sweep. This is brilliant between Mason and Proger. Up round turn 3, now turn 4, now turn 5. And Proger looks to have managed just about there out of Sector 1 to hold on to 6th position. But we are far from out of the woods. 2 minutes left to go with at least one more lap on the table between either of these two. It could even be 2 more laps at the moment. The number 33 is only now just heading around turn 16. There might be just enough time for about 10 seconds after the next coming lap for one more. So we're looking at 2 laps here to decide 6th position. And this has been a brilliant ending battle for round 4 of the championship. James Mason versus Hayden Proger. The 2 rising stars out of Season 1 now get to clash heads here in Kyalami. Side by side round Luakop. Turn 10 becomes turn 11 now. This is where the penny drops in momentum. BMW versus Ferrari down towards turn 12. We know Mason absolutely launches it through this section. Proger's acutely aware of this. He's holding the right-hand side of the track. He says, no, thank you. You're not going for the inside this time around. I've learnt my lesson. Out through turn 13. Now turn 14. Proger is doing very, very nicely there to hold off Mason, tapping into some of his former Grand Prix experience in the TRR F123 Virtual. He's known exactly where to position that car there. He's got a very stiff competitor up alongside him. So you can see from Mack getting past Prine ahead. That's lapped traffic we're slowly running into at the end of this race. It is looking very, very close at the moment to whether or not this is the last lap coming. We're on board with Jason Bush, and we're imminently awaiting the opportunity to announce him as a race winner. But will it be this lap or the next lap going? Now, Jason Bush has got a sizable lead, but not enough to hold off the next 16 seconds and make this the decisive final lap. So he's going to give it hell for leather around turn 15. Following on with him, we'll get on with him towards the end of the next coming lap, as it looks to be one more in the books here at Kyalami for the leading American. Christian LeBay now up into the top 4. After that incident from Vermack, he drops down to the back of the top 5. LeBay will be hanging on to a very tidy top 4 finish, ever closer to his championship rival, Diman Ivanov, with Aston Martin. So let's go back to the battle of Proger v Mason. 1.1 seconds at the moment. Robertson now becoming an active element of this fight. We're on that final lap. Watching at the moment, Proger's going to have to try and work his way around lap traffic. Robertson's not making this very easy for him, though. As down towards turn 13 we go. That was eerily close between the BMW and the Ferrari. James Mason there having to work his way around Robertson as well as we exit turn 13. By the looks of it, Hayden Proger is looking to claim 6th position. He may have lost 1 position from race start, but he has fought diligently to make his way back up to P6. Bear in mind, I think it is still 1 more lap on the table for this one. It's until the leader crosses the line to where the rest of these guys will see the checkered flag. As we're just seeing now that battle for 6th slowly die out. Looking around the field, we'll be getting back on board with Jason Bush shortly. As we see here, Julio Bahena caught in the midst of what looks to be a very late doors fight for 2nd, even of only a 2nd behind De Bont, but I think it might be just a little too late situation for these drivers. As we check around the track now in the final sector, we're on board with Jason Bush as heading down towards turn 15 shortly becomes the run to turn 16. Without further ado, he becomes the 4th driver in this championship to win a race. This is his first career win here in the Sunday League. The first American to win a race in Sunday League history. Jason Bush is a Sunday League race winner here in South Africa. A fantastic race by the Lexus driver. The number 33 victorious at long last there. It took him 4 rounds since his entry at Spa to see that top step of the podium, and he is absolutely elated at the result there. He's beside himself. 33 now on the top step. Fantastic work by Jason Bush today. Let's see where the penny drops for the rest of the grid. Francois De Bont takes home 2nd place. Diman Ivanov on the podium. Christian Lebay is a long way from home at the moment. He's got a few more corners in the bookings here. Vermaak looks to get him by. Is Lebay run out of fuel there? He slowed down. Vermaak's got him by. And up into 4th position goes Tyler Vermaak to take home 4th. What has gone on for Christian Lebay? I think the 119's out of fuel. It's contact with Mason. What has happened to the Aston Martin? A very late drama for Christian Lebay. The V12 Advantage is on low fuel mode. It's crawling to the line. This has been gut-wrenching for Christian Lebay. It has massively shifted the fates here. Proger finishes net neutral for position. A very long-winded comeback drive. Driver of the day by any stretch of the imagination. Here in round 4. Cassier 6th. Mason 7th. Lebay, is he even going to make it to the line here? It is looking very dire at the moment. Could even lose out 8th position. That's heartbreaking stuff for Christian Lebay. What looked to be a surefire run of 4th position. He's run out of fuel on the last lap going. Jenkins is going to make his way past just before the checkered flag. I think Lebay is actually stuck there at the end of the road. Contact with himself and Milbank. Oh, that has got to really sting. That is gut-wrenching for Christian Lebay. Not a way to end the race, but he'll be, I think, just inside the top 10 by the looks of it. That is utter drama on the last possible moment of this race. But he took it all the way to the checkered flag. Or just about. I don't even think he reached the checkered flag, but you know what I mean in that regard. Right on the ragged edge of what that Aston Martin could give him. But what a result today. Now the 4th new name on the list, joining in the likes of Melvin Milliston, Wesley Kuiper and Ian Skeen. Number 33, Jason Bush from the United States of America, racing for Lexus, is now a Sunday League race winner. Now, history in the making. The first Lexus to win a race, the first American to win a race, the 4th new manufacturer to win a race in a row, and the 4th new driver to win a race. History in the making here in Season 2. Very mixed bag towards the end of the road there inside that top 5. Hayden Proger will be beside himself to have made his way all the way back to 5th position after what looked to be quite the punt down into turn 2 on the opening lap of this race. A mixed bag for all, but I'm sure our top 3 have little to complain about at the end of this race. We'll just wait to see what the final results are then, as we're still looking inside the pit lane. Now, this is because Christian Lebay was brought into the pits. We're waiting for the maximum timer to run its course. It should be in a few seconds' time there. We'll get the final standing order for this race. That has been very, very dramatic indeed. On the final set of corners, we saw that engine conk out. That's the first we've ever seen of it for Christian Lebay. That could put a serious hamper in his charge towards 2nd or potentially even 1st in the championship. Make no mistake that he'll still be in the makings here for that top 3 by the end of this season. This is but a hurdle in the road for the 119. But that is a very big shock to see. Of all cars as well, Aston Martin to struggle for fuel in this race. Now, looking in retrospect, that may not be much a surprise. I mean, it's a V12 engine. They are almost renowned for their capacity to absolutely chug fuel. But we've never seen Lebay struggle for fuel load coming into this race. I think there's been a handful of times where he said that he's been very close to running out, but never have we actually seen the car be forced into its emergency low fuel mode. And then even then, that wasn't enough to get him out of turn 16. He conked out right before the checkered flag. Waiting to see then what the final results are. What a result by Jason Bush. Well done today. Well done to everyone on the podium as well. Of course, this race wouldn't be possible without our sponsors at Malwa Heavy Transport Incorporated. For those of you interested in a professional and efficient cargo transportation brokerage service for your business and you happen to be located in Canada around the region of Quebec, visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca. This wouldn't be possible without them. They're the primary sponsors of the Sunday League and for the NLRL CES, of which the next round is shortly coming up. I'll be, I believe, going back to Kyalami as well, so double trouble here in South Africa, here in NLRL. Waiting to see then just the final standing order. I think we are there, finally. So Jason Bush wins with the fastest lap. Francois Debont second, Ivanov third, Vermac fourth, Proger fifth, Cassier sixth, Mason seventh, Jenkins eighth, Lebain ninth, Bahena 10th, Stoyanov 11th, Quain 12th, John Prine in 13th, Bond 14th, Milbank 15th, Kuiper, Smith and Robertson all in the DNF area. Robertson technically with a DSQ. Nonetheless, those three out of the race. What a dramatic then way to finish off the week here of racing here on TRTN. We had a great round back in VSR Phoenix where we were able to crown the champion at Donington Park. And now we're here to see the rise of a new potential champion to be Jason Bush on his first race win of the season. He's been a consistent visitor to the podium and victory at long last for the American. That's got to be a great feeling. That's all from us here then on TRTN. A fantastic production today. We hope you really enjoyed tuning in for this evening. As much as we've enjoyed covering it, this has been a fantastic round. Kyalami is always a treat to visit. If you're joining us then for next week in VSR Phoenix, we're heading to the Nürburgring for the penultimate round of the 7th season running of VSR Phoenix. For those of you joining us for the NLRL Sunday League, our next round takes us to the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas for the halfway mark of Season 2. That's all from us though, and have a wonderful rest of your evening and good night.